Here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Your mission.
Suppose we go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream,
To be given the right of human beings to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing a voice of reason.
Certainly come to the right place.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Thursday, October 29, 2015, and I want to thank you for joining us. I'm testing out something here. It appears that I may have some complications on the Spreaker end. Just want to see something. Okay, possibly and possibly not. So anyway, I want to thank you guys. The reason I want to thank you is for your patience. I've noticed a couple of things real quick, and I'm going to be brief. We have a lot to talk about today, a lot in political news, but I've just noticed that, ever since last Monday, it's been more difficult for me to do the show because the show really requires such a level of focus that I just generally took for granted. And now I know that level of focus is something that I can't take for granted, and being distracted and being taken away for my friend Corey really wasn't something that I was emotionally or intellectually prepared for. And so I found myself having to build myself back up to be able to do the show and do a lot more preparations than I used to have to do. And that's just part of life. Sometimes you have to start back from zero. And I also want to thank you for being patient as we've changed schedules, that we're now going on Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Last night, we were flexible. We went at 10 p.m. because of the debate. But thank you for being flexible. So many people have still come to find us where we are. And for that, I'm grateful. I'm going to have to upload the Spreaker episode tonight. So thank you guys for your patience in general as we make the necessary adjustments to survive and to live and to continue on with the show. Now, with that being said, I've had more time to digest and to dissect the debate last night. And I want to talk about more of the explicit lies. In fact, everyone, if you look at most of the news media outlets, everyone is talking about the incessant lying that took place last night at the debate. So I definitely want to talk about that. I'm also going to be joined this evening by H.A. Goodman, and he's going to join us to give us an update on Bernie Sanders. I've just had an amazing conversation with a friend of mine who is a staunch Republican. At least she was. She was very dedicated to Ben Carson, and she has since turned and no longer supports Ben Carson and supports Bernie Sanders. She is a nurse, and one of the largest nurses unions in the nation has endorsed Bernie Sanders. It's not so much about them endorsing Bernie Sanders as much as it was about her feeling betrayed by Ben Carson. So I want to talk about that a little bit, just kind of give you a preview as I get ready to do a little bit more writing on that particular issue. So a lot going on tonight. I do have the links in the description below, so that would definitely be helpful for you tonight, as well as helpful for me. And then we'll just go from there. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. I want to talk about the 10 lies. I have two articles in there that discuss, and one of them was done by a colleague of mine over at If You Only News, Sarah Burris. She wrote an article about the 8 lies, big lies from last night. And then there's another article about another set of lies. But I just wanted to pick out 10 instead of doing 16 because it's fascinating the level at which these conservatives are performing with their lies. It's fascinating. What's disturbing about it is their ability to do it without any repercussions. There was a time that if you got caught in a factual lie, that would be at least a bruise or a black eye on your candidacy. But now it's like the more they lie, the stronger they are. And that's very, very disturbing. I wrote an article a few months back asking the question, do they even care? Do conservatives even care about the factual truth anymore? And after last night, I think it's safe to say that there's just no concern. Let me back up. Here's the thing. You do have different sides of a story. You do have different perspectives. There's that meme where you're looking at something, and for some people, they look at it and they see 3 bars, and then other people look at it and they see 4 bars. There is this possibility of us seeing things differently. But when we start talking about actual, tangible, measured, replicable, falsifiable facts, and the ability to look at that data in the face and blatantly misrepresent it and lie, then we're going over to a realm where we're not dealing with a perspective or a vantage point. We're dealing with tangible evidence that is being misrepresented and lied about. And that's what we have found in the Republican Party now more than ever. And actually, most of my links in here are dealing with the lies. There was a great article, I believe this one was by the New Republic, that was dealing with how Mitt Romney set the precedent in the 2012 debates with his blatant lie about some of his comments and misrepresenting it in the debate. What happened in the debate, though, was not so much because President Obama called him out about the lies. You have to read the entire article because it's a really fascinating piece. Even though President Obama called out Mitt Romney about his lies, the momentum of the debate fell on the side of Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney got the applause lines. Mitt Romney got the sound bites. Mitt Romney ultimately won that very first debate. And no one paid so much attention to the factual error, the lie, the misrepresentation of facts that Mitt Romney actually committed, because he delivered it in a manner that covered him. He delivered it in a manner that simply was a wash, where people no longer really cared. No one cared that he misrepresented the truth. He misrepresented the truth so well, and no one even batted an eye. And so what that article in the New Republic is talking about is how that strategy, that particular strategy, has been employed by almost every single Republican candidate, where they lie with confidence, they lie with misinformation, they lie by deflecting and distracting and a sleight of hand. And everyone is applauding, everyone is celebrating, and paying no attention to the fact that all of their candidates on stage were clearly misrepresenting the facts. We're not talking about differences in ideology. That's the thing I want to make sure people are clear. We're not talking about differences in whether or not we think our tax plan is going to be better than their tax plan. We're not talking about that type of lying, right? We're talking about straight out factual data that's been misrepresented. And so, to that end, I want to jump in into some of these the top lies from last night, and I'm going to start. And again, I want to give a nod, a hat tip to my colleague over at If You Only News, rather, and her article on particularly on the 8 biggest lies from last night. Sarah Burr. So she put this together, and she put it together as the debate was going on. Okay. The first one I'm going to take, anyway, just watch me as I work. I'm taking a few from here, and I'm taking the rest from another article. But the first lie that I want to pull out of this is Marco Rubio's working for Florida people. This is, and the fact that Jeb Bush called him out on it. The fact that Marco Rubio only works a handful of hours, a handful of days, And even though he's only required to be there a few days out of the week, he is still absent. He is still not there. And so here, this confrontation took place between Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio has been called out by Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush is stating a fact. Marco Rubio, you have been missing in action. Marco Rubio, being the charming, being the charismatic, and being the well-spoken person that he was, eviscerated Jeb Bush, but still completely avoided the reality of his own life, the reality of what happened. So yes, Marco Rubio has been missing in action so much so that his own party called him out over it because he missed a key vote that would have supported some of the key contracts, the military industrial complex, some of the things that were most important to Republicans. Marco Rubio missed that. He also missed a vote on Planned Parenthood to defund Planned Parenthood. So it's not as though this is something that Jeb Bush just pulled out of the air. It's a recorded, documented fact. But no one cared about that. All they cared about was that Marco Rubio had pizzazz. That Marco Rubio had flair, and that Marco Rubio was so charismatic. And now he's being marked. He and Ted Cruz are being marked as winners of last night's debate. Carly Fiorina running on her credentials. This, I think, is probably the biggest lie of them all. Running on her credentials. It's one thing to see a glass as being half full versus seeing the glass as half empty. Carly Fiorina looked at the glass that was completely empty and represented it as something that was great, notwithstanding the 30,000 people that she laid off at Hewlett Packard, that she was forced to resign. We already know that. We've gone through that their stock prices plummeted over 53% while she was in office. And then after she was forced to resign, that stock price went up 10%. Right. So, and that all this time, all the people that she fired, she left with, of course, a CEO compensation of $21.4 million that really was her golden parachute. But it didn't matter that the facts clearly state that Carly Fiorina was a terrible CEO at Hewlett Packard. All that matters is that she got on stage and she talked with so much emphasis, and that she talked with so much passion, and that she rejected the liberal media lies and the liberal media bias and liberal media this and liberal media that. That's all that matters. No one gives a damn about objective reality anymore. All they care about is how good does their candidate make them feel. Republicans promising, this is another big one. I talked about this last night, promising to protect Social Security. Translation: we want to take a large portion of Social Security and turn it over to the private sector. They're masters of this. If you read the New Republic article, actually the Washington Post article in my link, if you read that article, you will see how masterful they are at the sleight of hand, where they have their talking points down so succinctly that they actually believe that they're going to save Social Security, or they're going to save Medicare and Medicaid by defunding them, or by turning those revenues, those coffers over to the private sector. Shall we go on? Let's keep going. Republicans care about equal pay for equal work. That's a given. Actually, I didn't even mean to count that one. Here's one. Here's the one that takes the cake. That President Obama has killed the economy. This was accepted as a fundamental fact. This was the starting point. This was the premise. This was the underlying premise of the entire debate last night, that the economy is in shambles and that President Obama is responsible for the economy. This is what baffles the imagination, people. What just blows me away is that even by their own metrics, the number of months that we've had positive job growth, the number of months that we've had a decrease in unemployment, the increase in the stock market, doubling, tripling, all of these successful metrics, we are using conservative Wall Street metrics. We're using their own metrics, yet they still declare, and President Obama is outperforming on these metrics, but they still can say with a straight face to all of America that the economy is in shambles and President Obama is to blame. So you have two underlying lies there. Number one, that the economy is in shambles. No, the economy is recovering. Is it recovering at the pace that we want? No, but considering we came out of the greatest recession since the Great Depression, we are still recovering at a fascinating pace. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is the cause. And I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but maybe it's just somebody listening that by happenstance doesn't realize that the Great Recession came at the end of George W. Bush's presidency. And so where they're laying this bold-faced lie at the feet of President Obama, getting an applaud line from conservatives, the reality of it is President Obama is fixing the problems that George W. Bush created. You know that. I know that. But what's amazing is that no one in the Republican conservative ideology even cares that all last night, the entire fundamental premise of the entire conversation was a lie, that President Obama destroyed the economy and that President Obama, this recovery has been in shambles. This is what we're dealing with. I don't even know how many I got through. I probably got through about 6. I'll do the next 4 after I get done with the next conversation. But that's the problem. That's the fundamental problem, that no one on the Republican side cares about objective reality anymore. They just completely dismiss it. And you see this not only in economic conversations, you see this in conversations like with regard to the environment, right? They don't care about objective facts about climate change. All they care about is the talking points and how those talking points can win them some votes. All right, I've been joined by H.A. Goodman. Before I go to him, I want to take this caller. Caller, what is your name, comment, and or question? Caller, you are live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question? All right, caller, we'll have to get you next time. Hal Goodman, how are you today, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Glad to have you. All I have right now is your avatar. I don't have a picture of you.
Oh, okay. Let me go ahead and log on again.
Okay. And while he does that, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to join the conversation, you can. 857-600-0518. We're discussing some more of the lies from last night, but I brought Hal Goodman on to do a favor for me tonight so that he can give me some updates on his favorite candidate, my favorite candidate, on Bernie Sanders. I wanted to talk about nurses for Bernie, and I also want to talk about the most recent poll data out of Iowa that shows Hillary Clinton at a 41-point lead, and the deceptive nature of that poll. Okay, I have a picture of you now. H.A., how are you today, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I know this time is a lot better. You're on the West Coast, so thank you for joining me previously at 5 in the morning your time, but I think now's a better time for you, no?
I appreciate you having me on. I always love to be on. Thank you.
Thanks so much, man. So do me a favor. I've been out of the loop. First of all, I want to thank you for your condolences and all, all the times you reached out and shared your thoughts and your prayers. And I share those and express those with friends and family members. And not only you, but so many people from the Feel the Burn crowd really showed a lot of love. And I can't overstate it because it was so overwhelming. So first and foremost, thank you for that. What I want to do, though, is because I really have just been out of the loop. I've been underneath a rock in South Florida, just kind of tunnel vision on the issues down there. I honestly am so out of the loop with Bernie Sanders. And I knew if anybody can get me up to speed and get the audience up to speed, it would be you. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you. What's going on with Bernie? What's up with this poll out of Iowa where they're showing he's down 41 points all of a sudden, and anything else that you feel is pertinent? Go for it.
Well, there's a lot of great things going on. Number one, there's this poll that came out, and it might as well be Hillary Clinton up by 5 billion points. Okay, really, something like 30, 40 points. It was a poll where the pollster called 400 landlines in Iowa. And they also automatically put Biden's theoretical votes onto Clinton's. Okay, so what's in Iowa, and this is an immense public relations spin. So essentially what took place is Bernie Sanders goes from less than 1% support in the Democratic primary in June of 2014. Less than 0.08%. Earlier on in 2015, he was at 3 to 6% support. Hillary Clinton was at a commanding 60+% support. I mean, at that point, you'd have to be crazy to think that anything could happen, right?
Exactly.
Well, yeah. Well, what takes place is Bernie Sanders surges to now over 30% in one poll, 29% in other polls. Hillary Clinton drops from 64% to now something like, well, before Biden's votes, to something like a little over 40%. They add Biden's votes now in this recent poll, which is very funny because I talked about this in my last Huffington Post article. Biden voters value honesty. That's what they polled the Biden voters. And when it comes to polls relating to a person's character, those don't change like who you're going to vote for, that type of poll. So in terms of a person's character, Biden is, you know, honest. He's less of a hawk in terms of foreign policy. Why on earth? I mean, if you talk about 57% of Americans, according to CNN, do not trust Hillary Clinton. Even within the Democratic Party, there's a sizable percentage that don't trust Hillary Clinton. So why on earth is Biden voters automatically are they going to automatically vote for Clinton? So that's pretty much a public relations spin. It was also landlines. You know, people under 50 oftentimes just use a cell phone. And so, I mean, another part of the spin is, and this is how you know Bernie Sanders is doing very well, and he was up above Clinton in Iowa and New Hampshire, which is funny because he should never have been up, right? I mean, it was Clinton's to win. He was up, and now Clinton came back, and so great. But what they're not telling you is that the fact that Bernie Sanders came up from less than 1% to beating Clinton in Iowa and New Hampshire in the polls without media coverage, without all the mainstream kind of public relations spin that Clinton has, that says something about the grassroots. And really, when they talk about a ground game, it's like you hear this phrase ground game. It's like they're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers or something. But really, what a ground game is a grassroots effort. In terms of a grassroots, and that's how President Obama won in 2008 and in 2012. And in terms of a grassroots effort, he's just doing great, and he's doing phenomenally.
Here's something that stood out to me about the polls, and I actually picked this up from a YouTuber called The Same Progressive. I think she's great. Yeah. Okay. So, so I was listening to her review of it, and she was talking about pretty much what you mentioned in terms of the type of people they called, and they intentionally targeted the people who voted in the last primaries. And because a lot of Bernie supporters, a lot of the people who are active and going to vote in this primary season did not necessarily vote in the last primaries. So you're already taking a sampling frame that is exclusive, not exclusive, but not including potential voters, very enthusiastic voters. And so you give this data that is representative of sounds as though it's reflecting the consensus of Democratic voters for the primary season, but it's leaving out an entire swath of voters who did not participate in the last primary for whatever reason. Maybe they were too young, maybe they felt disenfranchised, whatever the reason may be, but those people are mobilized to vote now. What do you think about that strategy in terms of the sampling frame? But then also, I want some of your commentary on how the media, particularly progressive media, Rachel Maddow, Chris Matthews, all of them have been regurgitating that same number of 41%. And it's giving life to data, to a poll that really wasn't properly done.
Well, Benjamin, in terms of the media in general, and I'm talking about left and right. So regardless of the company or the corporation, they want to paint drama. Okay, so all this drama is really, it's public relations, it's Hollywood, it's drama. When Bernie Sanders wins Iowa, you will see a tremendous, I mean, it'll be a crescendo of dramatic, commentary on all the stations. And this is kind of self-serving. So in terms of people getting, what's really going on is you have a person who should never be here challenging a person who basically is now becoming not the underdog, becoming a serious threat. And here's one big example. In 2008, and I'll tell you where I'm going with this.
Go for it.
In 2000, Senator Obama was at first not seen as a challenge to Hillary Clinton. Okay, there was one point where President Obama was polling alongside Giuliani in terms of popularity. Then he became very, very popular, obviously. Then Hillary Clinton got scared and frightened, and she created a 3 a.m. ad, and this was right before the Southern States in 2008.
Right, I remember that.
Harvard University's Orlando Patterson, who is a very, very prominent sociologist, said that when he looked at that ad, it had a racist quote. And this is his, not my opinion, because I think it's a racist ad. But when you look at the ad, you can look at it on YouTube. Harvard's Orlando Patterson says that it contains a, quote, racist sub-message. Now, when you look at what's happening now, this is mirroring 2008, and I'll tell you why. Hillary Clinton just said that Bernie Sanders, somebody in his campaign, or one of his top aides, made it. Okay, what was the comment? The comment was that it was joking that Hillary Clinton would make a good vice president for Bernie when he wins.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if there's anything wrong with being a vice president. That's a pretty high, esteemed level in terms of politics. That wasn't a sexist comment at all. But you see, the Clinton campaign, they'll dig in that well of racism, and then they'll spin a narrative of sexism when they need it, when they're scared, when they're feeling the heat or feeling the burn in this case. So
that was, I have to give you an applause on that one. That was okay. So, all right, let's do this. A couple of other things I want to talk to you about. So we talked about that. I was talking with a friend tonight, and I'll leave her name out of it because she doesn't want to have her name. She's a Republican, and she's voted for Republicans for probably all of her, voting age life. And they just came down in the state of Florida with an endorsement, Nurses for Bernie, a very large, it's about 4 million nurses across the country that's a part of this particular union. And what I found fascinating about the conversation I had with her was that because of her love for Dr. Ben Carson, it was difficult for her to initially accept this endorsement until she found out the fact that Ben Carson summarily dismissed the entire nurses union, the entire concept of unions in general. Mike Huckabee was another one who took this survey or refused to take the survey and pretty much just kind of crapped on the idea of unions, and particularly the nurses union. What stood out to this about her and what broke her heart the most was that Ben Carson has made his living, his entire career has been in the medical profession, and there is no medical profession without nurses. This endorsement from Nurses for Bernie, it's not only a large endorsement, but to me, it speaks volumes to the disconnect between on two levels, really. Ben Carson being from the medical field and not able to get an endorsement from nurses. That's one. But then two, in general, just the reality that people have been voting against their best interests for so long. And when it finally comes home, they end up going after Bernie Sanders. What do you think about that? And they end up loving Bernie Sanders. What do you think about it?
Yeah, well, I think that I think Trump and Ben Carson are doing something unique in the GOP. I think Carson has something he has political power within the GOP now, and because of that, of course, he's going to want to destroy unions. That's basically the standard Republican talking point. Yeah, standard procedure. The interesting thing about the person voting for Hillary Clinton, a satirical piece in the HuffPost comedy section called basically about Facebook liberals. Mm-hmm. I call certain people Facebook liberals, and these Facebook liberals will say that these Republicans are racist, but they'll vote for a person who basically created a racist 3 a.m. ad against Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. They'll say that Dick Cheney is evil, but they'll vote for a person who voted for the Iraq War, like Clinton. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of unions, Clinton accepted, well, let's just talk about who she might face if she were to win. Trump gave Clinton's foundation $100,000. Yeah. He helped her also in terms of her Senate runs. So she accepted money from that. In terms of Wall Street, 4 of her top 5 donors are from Wall Street, investment banks. In terms of the Republican talking point, she fits that narrative very well. Mm-hmm. Unions, she'll get endorsements from unions because of her political power, but in terms of what she'll do, more a better choice. So that's one of the reasons why the nurses union endorsed Bernie Sanders.
Let me jump in there real quick. First of all, HA, you should run for office because you're a master taking the question that I asked you about Ben Carson and Donald Trump.
Well, you know what's funny? I couldn't hear you for about 10 seconds.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. But I am a master politician. I just couldn't hear you for 10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I asked you about Ben Carson, and this is not supporting him. And you go over to, you're good at that. One thing you're going to do is you're going to attack Hillary or Bernie. I could ask you about hot wings and biscuits, and you're going to find a way to turn that into Hillary Clinton.
I love hot wings, but Clinton is bad. No, I'm joking.
No, seriously. But here's the thing I was going to get to, but you beat me to it, was that, first of all, the nurses union did not support Ben Carson, which is not surprising. I think what's revealing about it is that this is his profession, or was his profession, and that's one. Then two, the fact that once an issue hits close to home for somebody, they're finally able to see the light and realize that they've been voting against their own best interest. Then I was going to go over to Hillary Clinton. That's when I was going to go to Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton did not participate and did not get that endorsement either. So you've already beat me to the punch. It's not just Republicans, it's not just conservatives, but it's also Hillary Clinton who is not getting the support of some key unions, of some key supporters, and I think that's very telling in terms of how people are feeling in their gut about Hillary Clinton. Now, with that, I do want to say this. I have invited so many times, so many different Hillary Clinton supporters on the air, because I want, no matter who I support, I want to give the opportunity for a counter voice. And I invited someone to be a part of the debate tonight, and they were a Hillary Clinton supporter. We could have had a rigorous debate, but unfortunately they have turned it down yet again. So I'm putting this out on the airways. If anyone knows a Hillary supporter that is able to stand in this debate quarter here and go toe to toe with Hal or HA rather,
I love it.
I would love to have them on air, because I want to, if nothing else, when we debate, by the time we get done, we should have at least the truth is the last thing standing. We may destroy each other, but the truth shall be standing. So I'm asking you on YouTube and on Spreaker, everyone is listening. I need some Hillary Clinton supporters to come.
And I'm asking also.
Yeah.
Please, somebody come to the Benjamin Dixon Show, debate me. I'm begging you to do so. So if you're watching, I'm begging you, please come debate me.
I love it. I will take that one segment, and I will put that one segment out. We're looking for Hillary Clinton, and it won't be 2-on-1. I will just moderate. I will be as objective as I can, and whoever comes out as a victor comes out as a victor. Last but not least, Hal, what else is going on with Bernie in general? Just tell me, where is he? Where was he last week? What have I missed? I just feel so disconnected, and I just need you to plug me in. Give me about 60 seconds on where Bernie is in his campaign, and then we'll let you go.
Well, he was just recently at George Mason University, where a Muslim female law student basically talked about Islamophobia and talked about how it is a scourge in our nation and around the world. And Bernie Sanders gave her a hug. Yeah. And he talked about how, yes, Islamophobia and racism and any type of prejudice is just, it's horrible, and it's something that needs to be eradicated. I think that in terms of our political climate, for a presidential candidate to hug and show solidarity with a Muslim student, a law student, I think it's phenomenal, and I think it's wonderful. And I think that everybody on the GOP should do the same thing.
Yeah, I
think that everybody should, because there's been too much of that. There's been too much Islamophobia. I'm against that, and I think it's wonderful. And I think that it's great that Bernie did.
You know what? Then I don't feel as bad, because I did get that that information, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said that essentially, if you think that all Muslims are a problem, then you are the problem in America. That's a very bad paraphrase, but that's what came across one of my Twitter feeds. And so I'm not completely disconnected. Hal, thanks so much, man. I appreciate the update. I'm trying to get back into the regular swing of things. You've been very helpful. Tell everyone how they can get in touch with you and where they can find you.
Well, I actually have a YouTube channel now, and just type in H.A. Goodman, and you could see I have little 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute segments really quick on why I write about Bernie Sanders, and just hagoodman.com is my website.
Awesome, man. I'm going to come over to your channel and do something with you on your channel. Ladies and gentlemen, H.A. Goodman, we definitely want to go over and
thank you.
Thanks so much for being with us again today, man.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll catch you next time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a quick mental break. And when we come back, I'm going to finish dealing with all the lies from last night's debate. I want to talk just a little bit about Paul Ryan, not too much, because we did kind of we know a lot about Paul Ryan. And then we'll talk about some other things, the future of the show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. We'll be back after this. What's going on, everyone? This is Benjamin Dixon, and I wanted to take a minute to tell you how you can support the Benjamin Dixon Show. One thing I've learned over the last few months is that it is impossible for us to do this without you. Every time you click on a link, every time you read an article, every time you share a podcast or share a YouTube video, you are absolutely supporting our show. And without you, it's simply impossible. But there's another way you can support us. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com and register for our blog. You will be directly contributing to the success of the Benjamin Dixon Show by registering for our blog. You will help us increase our audience and increase our reach. Remember, every click counts, every subscribe counts, and every share counts. So go over to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com, click on the Contact Us tab, and register for our blog today. There is a radical, violent revolution taking place in America right now. Figuratively speaking, where we are ripping from the status quo the very notion that they have the right to define the status quo. We are ripping it from them. We are telling them that they no longer get to decide what America is going to look like. And that is terrifying for a lot of people. That is downright terrifying when someone comes into your home only to help you to understand that your home is not yours in isolation, that we share this home equally, and that we have the right to be comfortable in this home just as much right as you have to be comfortable, so that a white Christian straight man, the comfort that he feels in America will be experienced by the gay black woman and every other intersection that has been erased. That, my friends, that is a revolution if I have ever seen one. That is something, that is the next stage of evolution in America.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Ben Dixon.
He's obviously he's a radio show host or something like that.
You're damn right I am. Welcome back. All right. Davin Lewis on YouTube said, I don't know any Hillary supporters. I know one or two, and the ones I know are pretty good speakers. They're great debaters. I think they would be great to be on the show. But I've yet to find any Hillary supporters that are able to come on or willing to come on. So it's just a general, listen, I'm not inviting you to try to destroy you. That's not my job in this. I'm just we're going to have a robust discussion, and may the best ideas and record win. I can't say that I don't think that they're afraid. I just think maybe people are just too busy. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I don't know many. I do know a handful. I really like what HA said when he said the liberal Facebook liberals, right? You're liberal up until the point where your own candidate, your candidate of preference, the one you prefer is no longer liberal, and then you're okay being conservative. Right. I ran into that at a debate here in Cambridge, where everyone who was making an argument for Hillary Clinton had to do so from the right, attacking Bernie Sanders because he was too far left. He was too progressive. Every argument against Bernie Sanders was to the right of Bernie Sanders. This coming from people who were ostensibly progressive. That's an amazing thing to me if you are going to go underneath the banner of progressivism. And I'm not one of those who is an absolutist, right? I don't want to deceive you guys. I have some conservative points in me, particularly my personal life, but I don't try to make anybody else live by my personal life. So that doesn't really count, right? In terms of how we run this country, I believe we should run it from a progressive point of view. So it bothers me when I see other people who claim to be progressives kind of lay down those progressive requirements when it comes to things like taxes, the TPP, and I guess maybe I'm a hypocrite too, because in some ways, yeah, no, I'm going to call myself out here. Here's a good moment. I'm going to call myself out here. I tend to lay down my progressiveness with regard to our foreign policy. I'm nowhere near neocons, but I am of the persuasion that there's sometimes things have to be done that we don't want to do necessarily for the best interest of the country, particularly my episode on drones that a lot of people didn't like. I guess I'd have to call myself out on that. So and I say that because I want to make it clear that I'm not an absolutist. I'm not saying that you have to be 100% progressive, because we all have issues that we vacillate back and forth on, right? The jury is still out on me, for me, on a couple of foreign policy issues, because, as a student of international relations, I understand the practicality of realism, and that puts me in a different framework in terms of my thinking, in terms of international affairs, right? And so I have a tendency, my desire for there to be peace is often comes directly in conflict with the concept of realism, which is a very robust way of understanding the global system. So I'm not a perfect progressive, but we're dealing with people who are not even close to being progressive in a lot of ways, right? When you fail on economic issues, when you fail on issues of the environment, when you fail on issues relevant to war and peace, when you fail on so many issues, that how could you even start to say that you're progressive? That's the thing that gets me. Like, can we get can we get a 75%, 60% progressive rating? Can we at least get a 50% progressive rating? Because what has happened over the years is that our leaders, our Democrats, the people we've been electing have been shifting to the right further and further and further and further, to the point now that the people we call progressive are at best moderate, So that's what bothers me. That's what concerns me. Like, we're never going to be, I don't think we should be 100% purity test, a litmus test for progressivism, because then that's almost as bad as a litmus test for conservatism, except our ideology is right and our ideology is better. But notwithstanding that, we don't need a litmus test for, are you a perfect progressive? But we're not even dealing with people who should be called progressives. That's the thing that gets me. And that's what I want to discuss with some Hillary supporters, because, if you're going to support Hillary, you need to do so truthfully. Do so from the position of, I support Hillary because she's a moderate and she's just right of center. She's a neoliberalist. She supports the free market in the version, in the paradigm that we have it right now. Right? She supports Wall Street. She is a moderate. Be honest about that. Don't rewrite what it means to be a progressive in order to convince yourself that you should vote for Hillary. That's all I'm saying. So if you want to come on and talk about Hillary Clinton, I'm not going to be here to try to eviscerate you. I'm just here because I want us to have a robust conversation over the candidates. We're only down to 3 now, right? We're down to 3. We have a lot of months. So we have enough time that we can actually discuss who these candidates are, what their track records were, and what we really expect of them, and whether or not we really believe in what they're saying. So that's just a general invitation to come out. I have a question here from YouTube. Who do you think would be the best in the Democratic Party to run against possible Republican candidates? That's a tough question for one reason only. Hang on, let me refresh this page so I can get more comments. Okay, great. A lot more comments here. In terms of who do I feel is going to be best for the country, I think everyone already knows that, right? I mean, at this point, you should really know. I am a mouthpiece for progressivism, because there is no counterbalance in America right now to the onslaught of conservatism. There is none. Not in media, not in radio, not in television, which are all different types of media, I know. But just to reiterate the point, there is no strong counterbalance. We have it on the internet. We do have Cenk Uygur, who is a great progressive on the internet, but we need more strong voices to counterbalance conservatism. And so from that perspective, I support progressives. Now, in terms of who Republicans are going to put up to win, to fight, we have to look at it holistically. There are some polls. Hang on one second here. There are some polls that give you the head-to-head matchups. You should go to 270towin.com so that you can see how a Marco Rubio would perform against a Hillary Clinton, or how Marco Rubio would perform against Martin O'Malley. I put Marco Rubio in there because I do believe that Marco Rubio is going to be the nominee. He's going to be the nominee because of so many reasons that I'll discuss after I take this caller, which falls right in line to what we were talking about earlier, the incessant lies from the right. The leader of these lies, the most prolific liar of them all, is Marco Rubio, but he does it with a smile. He does it with a dagger in his hand and a smile on his face. And that's why I think he's going to be the nominee for the Republican Party. And he's going to be a very fierce opponent. So we have to keep that in mind. Caller, what is your name, comment, and/or question?
Hey, what's up? My name is Dixon. I've called before. I was listening to one of your comments say that we're down to 3, and I got like 2 points I want to make. Is that like one candidate who was polling higher than Chasey, and I can't even remember the other guy's name, but Larry Lessig.
Larry Lessig,
and
yeah.
he's not even like now that these two dropped out, he was polling higher than them until the DNC took his name off the poll. But he makes a great point in at least when he's campaigning, is that money in politics.
Yeah.
Like no matter who our nominee is, like look what they did to Barack Obama.
Yeah.
The Republicans will just stall the government to a halt. So no matter who we elect, like I support Bernie Sanders, but after watching Larry Lessig, I understand what Larry Lessig says. Like no matter who you pick, if your main campaign isn't about taking money out of politics, you can't change nothing. You're gonna be just like Barack Obama's presidency, like little change. You're gonna get loose change. And
yeah, and I appreciate that, because you're right. There is a fourth candidate, and I'm falling prey to the information that's been fed to me. But you're right, there is a fourth candidate out there, Larry Lessig, and so he should. I mean, it's. I don't know if he's going to pick up those 1 or 2% that percentage points that Chafee and Webb had.
He already got it.
Oh, so where's he now? Where's he? See, I'm out the loop, guys. I'm almost back. I'm almost back. But what is his percentage points right now?
Well, before they took his name off the poll, he was at 1%. And now his name is still off the polls. He's still carrying 1% now.
Okay.
At least
even with him being off the polls, you know what? I think it's worth bringing him into the conversation, because it does represent a lot of the problems with the Democratic Party right now. The fact that the Democratic Party is operating in the manner that the Republican Party used to operate, which is by any means necessary, we're going to crown the heir apparent, right? And those types of games are starting to take root in the Democratic Party. Not to say that they haven't always been there, but there has always been more of a populist movement in Democratic circles. And now we're seeing that the party itself is starting to behave much more like the Republican Party of old. And we see the Republican Party of old is kind of switching sides, right? They may have buffoons in the 1 or 2 spot, but those buffoons represent the grassroots populist animus that's in their base. And they refuse to crown their heir apparent, which was Jeb Bush. So we're in this weird political space right now where Democrats are acting like Republicans and Republicans are acting just like wild Republicans, and no one is acting like a genuine progressive, which is kind of disturbing. But yeah, Dixon, go ahead.
I don't know if it was last night or 2 nights ago. I remember you were talking with this black Republican from Florida, and he made a point that says to me now was like, if you don't spend enough money, because people like, I'm into politics, you're into politics, but you have to make a concerted effort. Most people are probably watching the football game right now, and they're just not into politics because it takes, like, just living your own life is a struggle.
Right.
And you're the guy from last night made a point where it's like you got to spend money to shove politics down people's throats to get them to vote for you. Because look what happened at the last election. Democrats, because two-thirds of the voting population didn't vote, we got demolished. It was bloodbath from what I saw across the nation. Yeah. And unless you take money out of politics, you have to suck up the big money to be able to put up enough ads so you don't get drowned out.
Yeah, but here's what we're up against, right? I'm not going to say that it's not possible, because God knows we need it to be possible for us to get money out of politics. But we're not only up against the people whose interests are served by that money, right? We're not just talking about like the Koch brothers. We're talking about every media outlet in the United States, every corporate media outlet in the United States, and some online outlets, to be honest with you, some independent media outlets online, they get these dollars as well. So when we talk about getting money out of politics, we're talking about taking away potentially $1 billion, I would say $500 million in ad revenue from the media, right? And then you're taking away hundreds of millions of dollars in wages and labor from all of the people who are working these campaigns. And so we're not just fighting the Koch brothers on this. We're fighting the media industry, and we're fighting all of the advisors, all of the campaign staff, from the person that makes $5 a day going out and passing out flyers to the person who made $500,000 that year to be the assistant campaign manager. So we have a very large uphill battle. And I don't know, I don't know the solution on how we actually get it done, except for the fact that people like you, people like me, we need to pound the drums on that on a regular basis, which is why, and I thank you for calling in on that, Dixon, and I'm going to clear the line up for the next caller, but which is why I'm grateful that you brought back up Larry Lessig, because he's the only one that's talking about getting money out of politics. I remember Dylan Ratigan on MSNBC. He's no longer there because he was talking about getting money out of politics. I think that's one of the worst situations that we have going on. And caller that just called in, I apologize, I missed your call, but you can call back 857-600-0518. Okay, folks, I'm running short on time. I want to kind of summarize talking about Marco Rubio one more time, because I think it's very important that we're clear on that. But before I do, caller, what is your name? You're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, how you doing, Ben? Patrick from Flint, Michigan, man.
Patrick, how are you, man?
Man, it is well. It is well. It's good to catch you and being at night. It's for lack of a better way of calling it.
Yeah.
You know, I love the last caller's thought on this idea of what happens when money is in politics.
Mm-hmm.
But my issue is that what happened to the democratic process? That's the part of this conversation that I would love to just chime in on just a second. Think about it. These folks literally want to shut Bernie Sanders down.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to have any real live debate. Hillary is rallying the troops at a voracious rate, so that they're trying to squeeze out any potential opportunity of what happened to her with President Obama.
Right.
Absolutely. So they're trying to ensure there's no way for it to happen. So she's trying to grab all the union vote. And here's the thing that's going to mess the union up. You may get the leaders, but the rank and file now, because the rank and file is beginning to think for themselves. And people are really looking at this and saying that, is she the elite? Is she the same side of a different coin?
Right.
As we talked about earlier about her being a Republican, because of how far our politics has shifted to the right.
Exactly.
The Republicans have gone way right, and moderate Democrats
we follow right along with
called
them.
Moderate Republicans now.
Exactly.
So I think that's one of that's my biggest concern in this, that they're trying to fix the fight. I'm thinking about the young lady who was told not to come to the debate because she said there weren't enough debates. Why do you try to hinder the amount of debates? Because that way you take away the opportunity for her to maybe slip or fall, or somebody else to catch fire.
Right.
Again, this is why do you have to fix a fight?
Right.
If you're the candidate, there's no need for it. So my question would be, how do you begin to just let them know that some of us who are out here, who are really beginning to look at this, is saying that you guys are trying to rig the fight for no reason?
You know what? It has to come from, and I hate to sound cliche, but it absolutely has to come from a grassroots effort, like Feel the Burn, like Black Lives Matter, like Occupy Wall Street. Let me, and when I say Feel the Burn, there's Feel the Burn that is 100% behind Bernie Sanders. But Feel the Burn actually represents more than just Bernie Sanders. It's a movement unto itself. It has components of Occupy Wall Street in it. And then it has just some people who just 100%, no matter what, they're behind Bernie Sanders. But those are the three largest grassroots forces in the Democratic or the left-leaning side of the political spectrum today. Here's the thing. Those three forces combined have the ability to bring the Democratic Party. And when I say party, I mean the power players. I mean Debbie Wasserman Schultz, all the way down to your local chapter chair. Bring it to its knees. They are not prepared for that, because they have been shaped and molded into traditional party players. Power over time corrupts. And where maybe Davin on YouTube has a comment. He said, "Don't forget the Dixiecrat eras in our history." It's a little offshoot, but But I bring that up because maybe this populist notion in the Democratic Party is a fairly new concept. Maybe that's just not the true nature of party politics in general. And maybe we saw an anomaly, let's say in the 80s and the 90s, in the 2000s, where we felt as though the Democrats were really the populists honoring democracy, but in reality, they've been party players all along, right? They've been just like the Republican Party in terms of how they engage in democracy, using big dollars to get big campaigns, to shove politics down our throats. I have to, do a little reading and do some research on that, but that's the only way that I can explain that this party is now almost like a clone of the Republican Party, of everything that we disliked about the Republican Party, right? About the power players, about the backroom deals, about crowning an heir, you're next in line so you can be, all the good things that we thought we liked about the Democratic Party. Maybe, and this is purely from a political operations kind of perspective, not in terms of our ideology, right? I still believe in the progressive ideology, but I think the people who are in power, the power players, maybe they just were never as populist and grassroots and democracy oriented as we thought they were. What do you think about that, Patrick?
That's a very good point, because once you really begin to think about it, here's how I look at this. If you look at what people will say, you say whatever you got to say to get your party nomination. Then after you get your party's nomination, you move toward the middle,
right.
Or at least that's what the goal is, to move toward the middle, to try to get the independence, so that you can, because I believe you've got 40% Republican, 40% Democrat in this country, and then, or maybe 45, you've got 10% of the people who actually swing the way the election turns.
Right.
Very seldom is it outside of, somebody just get wiped the floor of them. So when you begin to see that, literally, could it be that they are both sides of the same coin, where literally they are after their own interests, not the interests of the people? They give the people a persona that they care, but at the end of the day, the decisions that they're made come from off of K Street. Maybe K Street has more power than we do.
Let me say this as I get ready to get out of here, because I got 6 hours of sleep last night, man. It was the most amazing feeling in the world. And I'm trying to duplicate. I slept into 6 o'clock this morning and I felt like a brand new man. So I want to end the show. But let me say this, on economic issues, I agree with you 100%. And I've known that for some time. I knew that as soon as when I knew it in 2008, when the Republicans voted against the bailout, and then here come our ostensibly progressive, caring about Main Street and not Wall Street Democrats, who actually carried the bailout on their votes. At that point, it dawned on me that economically they are exactly the same side of a different coin, the different sides of the same coin, rather. And so on economic issues, they have been the same, which is why so many people are out here pounding the drums for Bernie Sanders, because economically, when would we ever see a progressive president? Bill Clinton was not an economic progressive. He was not as right wing as George H.W. or George W., who followed him. But in terms, for all intents and purposes, he was not progressive. Barack Obama, he may have let the Bush tax cuts expire, but he's rolling in the TPP. So in many ways, they are exactly the same. And what's disappointing about it then is now the nail in the coffin for people who are progressive and fear us going any further to the right. We have to contend with the fact that our party is just as economically neoliberal, and now they're no longer even populist. I hate to end the show on a negative note, but sometimes.
But that's a great point, man.
Yeah.
very powerful point, man. I'll let you finish the show, Ben. Great job tonight, man.
Hey, man, thanks so much. And thank you guys for following me to 9 o'clock at night. So Monday through Thursday, that is our schedule. Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. I'm going to stick in the schedule as, when I leave the schedule, that means that I've gotten a job offer from whatever corporate media engine that's going to want me to sell out. But I will go there underneath the auspices of selling out, but I'll be telling the truth and it's just taking their money to tell the truth. Man, I'll be going on some tangents. Anyway, I will be here. I think this is the final schedule. We've been going back and forth, but Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. we will be here. Tomorrow night I have off, and I actually have a night with my family for the first time in almost 2 years where I don't have to go to work and where I'm not doing anything else. So you guys have a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Over the weekend, I'm going to get myself together. I'm not at 100% yet. I'm going to get back at 100%. So all your well wishes, all your thoughts, all your prayers, all your chants, whatever you do to send positive vibes my way, please keep doing it, because I'm going to be back on my A game by Monday at 9 p.m. I'll see you guys there. You guys have a great weekend.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a war of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Hey guys, don't go anywhere. I'm glad we have this commenting system. Old Maryland just pointed out that, let me read her comment. How can you say that Larry Lessig is the only candidate that wants to get money out of politics? What about Bernie Sanders? If I said that, I have to go back and listen to the tape. But if I said that, then clearly I misspoke, because I've talked at length about Bernie Sanders wanting to get money out of politics. And I've talked about a couple other candidates, but particularly Bernie Sanders. I've spoken about his desire to get money out of politics. But like I said, my brain is not 100% back. I think I'm about 90% or 75%. I don't know where I am. But when I get back, I won't be making mistakes like that. All right. You guys have a great one.